What's up, guys? Christian Haramansky here, Century 21 AA Realty. And what I want to talk about is not really real estate related, or it can be, I don't know. I guess that all depends on you. Something that I actually kind of learned this week about how to deal with people and how to speak with people, how to talk to people. And I can categorize, our fears to come up to somebody and speak to somebody with two words, the two C's, which is, you got calculation, you got calibration. All right? So calculation, the difference between calculation and calibration is calculation, calculating specifically social calculation and social calibration. The difference being that, a lot of people, they tend to rely on calculation rather than calibration. And calculation is, you're thinking of talking to somebody, a potential prospect, a potential lead, whoever it is, maybe a client, and we tend to, because we're afraid of, rejection, different outcomes, or anything like that, we tend to think of different scenarios in our heads to see, for like damage control, like, oh, what if this person reacts this way? Should I react this way? Oh, what if they react this way? Should I maybe say this? And what it does is it puts us into this overwhelmed mindset where we, we're afraid to talk to somebody. We're afraid to start a conversation with somebody. And, personally, I've ran into this multiple times where I'm thinking like, oh, what if this person is feeling this way? What if they're in a bad mood? Maybe they're in a hurry. Things like that. And I'm assuming all these things. I'm trying to calculate all these different scenarios and assuming that these things are true. When in reality, you don't know if that person's having a bad day. You don't know if that person's having a good day. You don't know if that person's in a rush. You don't know if that person's open to talk to anybody. So a lot of the times I feel people calculate all these different scenarios trying to figure out what's the best approach, when in reality it just overwhelms them, and either they come up with so much information stuck in their head, not knowing where to start, not knowing what to say, that they freeze when they talk to somebody. And I had that a lot, and it's something that I've learned this past week that that's something I need to work on. And you try to figure out what that other person's saying. It overwhelms you. You freeze when you try to come up to them, or even worse, you get so overwhelmed with the possible scenarios that could happen, that you end up not even talking to somebody that's a potential prospect, a potential client, somebody that you can do business with, somebody that can even refer you to other people. So just by over-calculating socially, we end up losing a lot of business because we're so overwhelmed by what could happen. And the reason why we get overwhelmed, the reason why we calculate, is because we have very little or no confidence in ourselves in a conversation while it's happening, which brings us to calibration. So calibration is speaking to somebody and then figuring out an answer accordingly while you're speaking to them. So somebody that's very high confidence in calibration would see a situation, maybe, oh, I know I have to visit this lead today, right? And their thought isn't, oh man, what could happen? What if they're thinking this? What if they're like this? What if they react like this to me? They're thinking more along the lines of, you know what, that person, I don't know what that person is feeling today, but I'm going to go into the conversation and I'm going to feel it out. I believe in my confidence, I believe in my abilities, that whatever gets thrown at me, whatever type of emotion gets thrown at me, I will know how to respond accordingly. And that's something you build through constantly talking to people. And you have the first thing to do to get to that point of being able to calibrate without feeling overwhelmed or feeling afraid to even start an interaction, is the first thing you would have to do is not judge yourself. Because judgment, no matter what type of judgment, big or small, it still affects your self-esteem and your confidence to, do things in the future. So the best mindset to come at this is, you know what, maybe I am not good at calibration right now. Maybe the conversation will go poorly. Hopefully it doesn't, but it's a learning step. I'm just gonna go, and I'm just gonna be proud that I went up to this person and that I spoke to them. The goal is not, oh my God, yeah, I'm only happy when I get a good lead. I'm only happy when I'm going to get a listing. I'm only happy when I get a good buyer. The mindset behind it, especially when you begin, is, all right, I'm proud of myself. I went up to that person and I spoke to them. I didn't let myself overthink too much thinking of possible scenarios. You know what? I'm just happy that I spoke to that potential lead. I'm so happy I spoke to that potential client. And that's like the mindset you have to approach this at, because the more you do this, the more, you don't judge yourself, and the more you let yourself, come into different social interactions. And after a while, you start building confidence. And once you start building confidence, which then builds leverage, you start to use calibration more than calculation. And calculation is fine, but too much calculation is what stuns us. It's what makes us freeze. It makes us, not do the things that we're supposed to. And I've been horrible with over calculation, because it destroyed a lot of potential relationships with people. Because I got overwhelmed, and I was like, oh man, what if this person does this? What if this person does that? And they end up not even, I end up not even talking to that person. So when I learned that calibration is a lot more important, and it's okay to not judge yourself, because when you're starting something new, you can't be perfect at it. So, I let myself go into an interaction, go talk to a potential client, whoever it is, and I didn't judge myself. I'm like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. And one thing that will really help crystallize calibration and building confidence quicker is just assume that everything will go well. Assume that that person will react well. Assume that that person's having a great day and wants to talk to you, right? You come with this assumption that everything's going to work out, and if it doesn't, that's fine too. I can figure it out. I can maybe change up the conversation. Maybe I can change up the flow, the emotion of the conversation. And if that doesn't work, you know what? Maybe this person is just in a bad mood, and that's completely fine. So when you take judgment out of it, you start to feel more confidence, because you're not beating yourself for things that you can't ultimately do right now, because it's just a skill like everything else. You keep working at it, and then your social calibration will become extraordinary, and then you can just walk into a conversation with people and have none of this like noise in your head. Am I doing this right? Am I saying the right things? It'll just come naturally, because you've let yourself go into conversations and let yourself just go through the motions of it and see how everything works. You kind of let yourself go in and like build trust within yourself. All right, so these are the main things why people end up not talking to potential buyers, to not talking about potential clients. And I can say this week has definitely changed for me since I incorporated calibration rather than calculation, because now I've had more meaningful conversations with people. I've asked the proper questions. I've asked about what their true motivations are, and it was a lot more fluent of a conversation. I built more rapport with people, and in the end, that's what's important. It's building rapport with people, making sure people like you and want to do business with you. So if you have any problems with this, over calculating, just remember, don't judge yourself, and as always, until next time.